classical musical pause.
Thank you for tuning in to today's meditation, which will focus on the history of the piano, from Antiquity to the 21st century. The history of the piano is not merely the account of a single invention. Rather, its origins are best understood not as a sudden event, but as the culmination of a long lineage of mechanical and musical developments beginning in antiquity. The earliest known keyboard instrument was the Hydraulis, developed in Hellenistic Greece during the 3rd century BC. The Hydraulis used water pressure to maintain airflow through pipes and was operated by a system of sliders and keys. Though closer in design to an organ than a piano, the Hydraulis established the fundamental concept of a keyboard interface, which would prove to be a critical step in the long evolution toward the modern piano. With the fall of the Roman Empire, the Hydraulis disappeared from widespread use, but the idea of keyboard-operated instruments endured. During the early medieval period, rudimentary pipe organs began to appear in Western Europe. These instruments eventually evolved into more complex cathedral organs by the 10th century, marking a significant advance in keyboard technology. By the late Middle Ages, the idea of striking or plucking strings by means of a keyboard became central to the design of other new forms of instruments. For example, the clavichord, which likely originated in the 14th century, used metal tangents to strike strings. However, its volume was extremely limited, making it best suited to private practice. More prominent in public and courtly settings was the harpsichord, which emerged in the same general period and gained in popularity from the 15th century onward. Unlike the clavichord, the harpsichord produced sound by plucking strings with a small plectrum. Its tone was bright and articulate, but fixed in volume. The piano as we recognize it today has its true foundations in the inventions of Bartolomeo Cristofori, a Florentine instrument maker employed by the Medici family. Around the year 1700, Cristofori devised a new mechanism in which a small hammer rather than a plectrum or tangent strikes the string and immediately rebounds, enabling dynamic control depending on the pressure applied to the keys by the performer. An early invention of Cristofori, the Gravicembalo col piano e forte, which translates to harpsichord with soft and loud, featured an escapement mechanism, a check to catch the hammer and a back check, which are elements foundational to the action of all subsequent pianos. Although only a few of his instruments survive, they display remarkable mechanical sophistication. Despite this breakthrough, early versions of the piano or fortepianos did not immediately supplant the harpsichord. Its spread during the first half of the 18th century was gradual, facilitated by instrument makers such as Gottfried Silbermann in Germany, who produced instruments based on Cristofori's designs and introduced them to key figures like Johann Sebastian Bach. Early classical era pianos featured wooden frames and a lighter, more delicate sound compared to modern instruments. These so-called Forte pianos had a smaller range, typically around 5 octaves, and lighter action. Their tone, while limited in volume, was well suited to the refined, elegant textures of classical music. Mozart's use of the piano helped solidify its role in solo and chamber music, and Beethoven helped to inspire a dramatic transformation in piano construction and performance. Industrial advances, including the introduction of the cast iron frame, were key in this development, as they enabled much higher string tension and therefore greater volume and longer sustain. The use of felt-covered hammers, developed around the early 1800s, replaced leather and enabled the production of a richer, more nuanced tone. As the century progressed, The keyboard expanded to 7 octaves and beyond, and the double escapement action, patented by Sébastien Erard in 1821, allowed for faster repetition of notes. Following the classical period, piano music became a cornerstone of romantic expression, from the poetic miniatures of Frédéric Chopin to the dramatic sonatas of Robert Schumann and the symphonic textures of Franz Liszt. The piano also played a central role in domestic music making, and manufacturers such as Steinway and Sons, Bösendorfer and Bechstein rose to international prominence. In the late 19th century into the 20th century, the piano maintained its central place in Western music, but was also adapted to new aesthetic currents and technological possibilities. Composers such as Claude Debussy, Maurice Ravel, and Sergei Rachmaninoff extended the expressive range of the instrument, while experimental figures like John Cage introduced prepared piano techniques, inserting objects between strings to dramatically alter the timbre. The rise of jazz also introduced a variety of new pianistic styles. Artists such as Duke Ellington, Art Tatum, Thelonious Monk, and Bill Evans reimagined the harmonic and rhythmic possibilities of the piano, making it a core voice in a wholly new musical tradition. The second half of the century saw the introduction of electric and digital pianos, and instruments such as the Rhodes and Wurlitzer keyboards became ubiquitous in popular and jazz music. By the 1980s and 1990s, digital sampling technology allowed manufacturers to emulate the sound and feel of acoustic pianos with increasing realism, a development that significantly broadened access to piano education and performance. Today, the piano exists in both traditional and digital forms and can be found in all manner of musical styles, from classical to jazz, pop to experimental, and everything in between. Acoustic grand and upright pianos remain benchmarks of craftsmanship, while digital and hybrid instruments offer portability, connectivity, and affordability. Innovations such as MIDI integration and player piano technologies have also expanded the piano's capabilities, allowing it to interface seamlessly with recording software and a wide variety of virtual instruments. Meanwhile, concert pianists continue to perform works from across the centuries on modern instruments, refined by generations of builders. The piano has become, perhaps more than any other instrument, a bridge between the past and the present, rooted in centuries of tradition, yet continuously open to reinvention.
The magical musical pause.